Audio boys and girls, it's time for another Jeep Talk Show interview, and we're going to be talking with a very special guest. It's not Jeep related, which is usually one of our rules here, but I think this is important. And I think many of you, and we've seen this before, you're very interested in electric vehicles, really the whole EV and solar and battery technology thing. And I believe this gentleman has his pulse on very many of these items, and I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Don't mean to put any pressure on you, Brian. Just be yourself. So Brian White is an automotive factory analyst who runs the popular YouTube channel, Future AZA. Did I say that right?
You sure did.
All right, we're going to talk about what the hell that means. With a focus on EVs, solar energy, battery technology, and disruptive innovations. Brian provides in-depth tech analysis. He is a passionate EV owner and an advocate for frequently speaking at events like Tesla Takeover Asia and the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association Expos, where he debunks EV myths and discusses future trends. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, is about debunking the EV myths. I'm kind of an EV supporter. I'm a Tesla stockholder. I want the EV thing to be fine, but I do have some doubts on the EVs as myself.
Absolutely.
So I highly recommend Brian's YouTube channel if you have any interest in EVs, solar, and batteries. We are subscribed here, and I watch frequently. Actually, Brian, I watched one earlier. I guess the one you put out today. I watched, and it was good. So you may see comments from xjtalk.com-llc. And that is our channel, our YouTube channel.
Great.
Used to be Jeep Talk Show until we had somebody come in our Zoom meeting with gay porn. And
oh dear,
yeah, YouTube took us down within 20 minutes of it. So I think it was a hit job. Anyway, wow. And I just want to say before we get started here, I reached out to two people for this EV Tesla conversation. You and Farzad. Is it Farzad? Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
You both replied and indicated you'd be happy to be on the show. However, Brian, you beat Farzad here.
Well, there we go.
So I know about both of you after seeing you on Herbert's channel, Brighter. And I just found out the other day it's Be Righter. I didn't know it's not Brighter.
It is not. It is Brighter.
No, he said it's Be Righter. And he may have been joking around, but he
must have been joking.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Righter. So, which kind of fits Herbert. All right, so let me just get to it. EVs suck because they possess something in them that doesn't make power. It only stores and lets power out. So I think you're a little younger than I am, but you may remember the days whenever you got your first flashlight. It had D-size batteries in it, and you would forget and leave it on, and the parents weren't buying any more D-size batteries for you for at least a month.
No, very expensive batteries, very short lifespan, very inefficient in every way. And if you were to look at an electric car from that era, they did exist. They were very limited in scope. Maybe they were just golf carts. Mm-hmm. You saw the same thing. Expensive batteries, short lifespan, wildly inefficient systems surrounding it. Those days are gone. Flashlights work very well. The battery lasts forever, and a lot of them will power themselves off.
Oh, God bless for that.
Yes, if it detects it in the nozzle down orientation for a prolonged period, it'll say, this isn't right, clicks it off. But really, you could leave them on for days and they wouldn't die. Mm-hmm. This transition we've seen with better batteries, better efficiency in every step has come to all the different applications that use electricity. Now, you could, if we're going to say something as, reductive as an electric car just stores power, what's a gas tank do? It stores energy, which your motor converts, your engine converts that chemical energy into, kinetic energy. What's the difference?
Well, the difference to me is that the chemical energy is there locally. It doesn't require you to do anything, any charge to it. All you have to do is burn it, and then it releases the energy. Yeah. But I mean, it's not going to be, it's not something that you have to charge. My point that I'm getting to is, you remember the Ford Fusion?
Yes, sir.
That was not good advertising because it did not have a fusion reactor. If it had a fusion reactor in it, then that would be good. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. We need a technology that, we can have batteries there too, but we need a technology that generates electricity. And I'm fine with a dilithium reactor. I don't care. Just something that creates mass amounts of energy. So that's kind of the downside I see to the battery technology is, and also to the battery technology devolves over time. Now I watched something, I don't remember if it was yours or Herbert's, but I saw something the other day about the battery technology has gotten a lot better. And the conversation was that it will outlast the vehicle. And now what do you do with that battery pack that is still 80% as good as it was? You can start using it as, like what do they call those backup power stations?
Powerwalls.
Yeah, Powerwalls, I think is what they were talking about. But I think they were specifically talking about, is it Coker? I can't remember now, where they talk about, they set these power stations up for the peak grid type stuff. And then there was discussion about using the Teslas as putting onto the grid so that you could actually make money from the grid, selling it to them. Of course, I think that the electric company is going to screw you over on that. Not unlike what what California has done with the solar panels on residential and commercial industries. I mean businesses. But anyway, I thought that was really nice. So there definitely has been battery improvements. I mean, certainly, if we were putting D-size batteries in an electric vehicle, there's no way that would work. So the technology is amazing, and it continues to increase. And thank God we've got the Elon Musk that doesn't sleep, doesn't do anything except have kids and work 24 hours a day.
Well, those are all true things. So first of all, if you hate Elon Musk, good news. There's a lot of electric vehicles out there. There are dozens and dozens of battery research groups around the world. There are a dozen companies that make a very good quality, competent, capable batteries, and everybody is pushing the industry forward. The industry is really just getting out of its infancy. So when you talked about the lifespan of the battery, that was probably on my channel. We reviewed a presentation by battery researcher Jeff Don in Canada, who has tested these batteries to the equivalent of 300,000 to 500,000 miles and found minimal degradation. In some cases, he's tested them to 1 million miles or 2 million mile equivalent, minimal degradation. Some, certainly, just as your gas-powered vehicle may not have the same horsepower or torque as when it was brand new.
Right.
It's a little bit less efficient, but it goes on forever. That's why the federal minimum warranty on batteries is 100,000 miles in 8 years. If your battery dips below 70% capacity in that time, you get a new battery.
That's interesting. I did not know it was a federal thing.
Yes. And many manufacturers will give you even longer ones. Tesla is one example where their warranties are to 120 or 150,000, depending on the model. And the batteries they've gotten bulletproof over the last 10 years. In China, there are batteries going into cars that are expected to last 1 million miles. The car is not going to last that long. So when you talked about using them as stationary storage, what can happen, what will happen, and in some cases already is happening, is yes, you come home at night, you plug your car in, and in your app, you've got these settings that say, yeah, if you want, you can take up to 10, 20%, whatever it may be, of the power, if the price that you're going to pay me is over a certain amount.
All right.
So you might have charged that car. So for example, on a Tesla Model Y, I live in the Northwest, our power is 8 cents a kilowatt hour. For me to fill from zero to full would be about $4 or $5. If you're doing that on something like a Hummer with a vastly bigger battery, it's still like $10, $15. It's very reasonable. Mm-hmm. So you're looking, it's probably more like 15. But if you say, yeah, you can take up to 20% of my battery tonight, I know I don't need a full charge tomorrow. I'm just going to work or the store. They might give you $10, $20 back for that power because it's cheaper than firing up the peaker plant. And I think peaker was the word you were looking for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to think.
Yeah. And it's something that is nice. I know a lot of people say, I don't like the idea of spending an hour at a public charger. You're not going to spend an hour. You're going to spend 15, 20 minutes. I just did a road trip to Michigan, and on the entire trip, both directions, I never stopped because I needed to charge. I stopped because someone in the car needed a bathroom. And we would plug in while we're there, use the bathroom, get a snack, whatever, back in the car and go. And In the entire trip, which was 7,000 miles, 6,800 miles, something like that, we spent a grand total of 20 minutes surplus sitting at a charger. And in exchange for that 20 minutes of inconvenience, I never go to a gas station the rest of the year. I come home, I plug in, and that's it. And I don't even plug in every day. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy.
So how far do you drive daily on average?
Today I will drive 0 miles. I work from my office, which is in a building out behind my house. Mm-hmm. So, but in a course of a year, let's see, I've got 2 Teslas. So since October of 23, I've driven about 40,000 miles. So 20,000 a year, but it's mostly road trips.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, this is what I ask you that specifically because this is one of the concerns about electric vehicle. People will say, on average, people don't drive further than 40 miles a day going back to and from work. So mm-hmm. you shouldn't worry about range anxiety. It's mm-hmm. almost like the Jedi mind trick. You don't worry about this, but
right.
But you may. What if you live someplace where it's not 40 miles? What if you live someplace where you're driving 100 miles round trip a day or 200? So it's outside the norm, but it's a concern.
Sure. Well, let's talk about that. If it's 100 miles, I don't know of a car on the market, a new car with a range of less than 150 miles. The only ones that even have 150 miles would be the Ford electric Econoline van. And if you're buying an Econoline van, you know how many miles you need, you know your use case. Does it work for you or not? I know an electrician in Portland who got one for about $40,000, and he figures that he only drives in the Tri-County area. He figures that after 3.5 years, that van will be free because of the savings on gasoline, because you're paying 80, 90% less for electricity than you are for gas. And well, where's he going to plug it in? What if he needs more juice? Again, he's an electrician. I don't know how else to explain it. I think he knows how to do it. So if you're driving 100 miles round trip, you can still do that every day. And in the case of the Tesla Model 3, for example, the rear wheel drive that we have, you're going to get about 5 miles to the kilowatt. So you're going to need 20 kilowatts to get to and from work if it's 100 miles that day. 20 kilowatts, you're talking $2 at 10 cents. The national average is 12 cents. You're talking $12 is your cost to make that drive. $12? No, 5 kilowatts. So yeah, 60 cents. What am I doing here? Yeah, 60 cents is the cost of your drive for that. Yeah. So 60 cents a day is your fuel.
Hands down, miles. The electric is a lot cheaper. There's a lot less mechanical issues because, and correct me on this, but basically you're driving a electric motored Hot Wheel. I mean, it's basically you have a chassis with wheels. It's a little more complex than that. An electric motor. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than that unless you use magic. So there's a lot less moving parts. There's a lot less heat cycles, and all these things contribute to the wear and tear on a vehicle. And oh my God, the complexity. These shade tree mechanics, you really don't have to be a shade tree mechanic anymore because it's really, really simple. So I think that's great. But the problem, it's cheaper than gasoline or diesel, and that's great. My problem I have is, I want to go to grandma's house. Now, you've already mentioned this in your trip, but I want to go to grandma's house. I've got an EV and I've got an ICE vehicle. Do I risk getting stuck, especially with a wife and kids, on the way to grandma's house? Because, where are the chargers? I think that's on the app where you can find the chargers, but I don't know that the app tells you if the charger is occupied or if it's working. So these are the things that make nervous for me. You're not nervous about it because you just went through it. But me and I think a lot of other people are nervous about it's not the same thing as having a gasoline station. They're everywhere. And unless there's a hurricane or a natural disaster, they're going to have fuel.
And they're going to work. And if they're full, they'll be not full in a minute or 3. Right. Even Costco's only 5-10 minutes. So before I bought my first Tesla, I had a chance to road trip in a number of other people's Teslas. So here's the way it works. You hop in the car, you set your destination in the navigation, and it will tell you where you're stopping. It will say, in 3 hours, we're going to be stopping at this charging stop. to charge, and it navigates you right to it.
And this is built into the Tesla. You do the
Built into the
navigation on
Tesla.
the screen, and it knows
Yes.
where you're going. That's nice. I did not know about that.
Yes, and you can change it. You can say, you know what, that'll get me in there at 18%. I'd rather go down to 5%.
I'm going to have to pee before then, Grok. I need to.
I am going to. And the nice thing is you can tap on it and it will say, here's how many cars we expect to be there when you arrive. Here's how many are there now. It shows you how many open stalls. And as you get closer, if that particular spot is congested, it'll just pick a different one because there are enough chargers around the common routes to get there. I have never once had to wait for a charger on the Supercharger network. Now, I've seen people with other EVs. When I was the first leg of the journey, we stopped at the Wendy's next door had an EV Electrify America charger. There was one car waiting to get into that. Right where we were was the Tesla Supercharger. There were 8 open stalls. So it will tell you where all the charger stops are. It'll tell you what the price is. And if you want to pick one that's 2 cents cheaper per kilowatt, do that. And it'll tell you the speed of the charger. And when you pull up, it'll say, stall 2D is out. Don't go to that one.
Good. So it can detect if it's working or not. So if somebody was to cut the cable or steal the copper or just damage it because they hate Elon, the app would be telling. I mean, not the app, the car itself would tell you.
Yes. So I had a chance to talk with the Northwest Division director for Supercharger installation, and one of the questions was, "Do you want us to report when a stall is out?" And he said, "No, we know."
Nice.
It's all connected. It's all in a feedback loop, and they know. So it's the finding charging, the easiest thing in the world.
So you had the 6,000, 7,000 mile trip. There was not a concern for you. I mean, you've done it before.
Never.
I mean, you've driven for a long ways on an EV before, but it wasn't a concern. You jumped in. I mean, so if you got the hankering for a road trip, it wouldn't be like, I got to make a plan. It's just like, let's go.
No planning required. If you want to go to the Arctic Circle, plan, but also plan if you're taking a gas vehicle. That's just plan, because that's extreme. But 2 of my friends, colleagues, took Cybertrucks to the Arctic Circle last year, the first ones to do it. And there were gaps where they brought chargers and made deals in advance to install them at local businesses, just regular level 2 wall chargers. One was a mechanic shop. I forget what the other one was, but they completed the circuit. Now it's much easier to make that journey. You can go all the way through Canada and get there. But in terms of regular driving, I don't even think about it. And I didn't always take the most conventional routes. The trip I did last year was much longer. Went out to Michigan, came back down through Oklahoma and Texas, down through the Southwest. These are roads less traveled, still plenty of chargers, plenty of range. It tells you where to go, and you get to stop at Buc-ee's.
Yes. I was going to ask if you had been to Buc-ee's. I think the Buc-ee's over here in Katy, they have a bunch of chargers. I mean, and I never see them in use either. So, but this is Texas. It's not manly to have an EV. Well, and actually, that's a good point that I'd like to make. I'm a Jeep owner. I see no reason to buy anything but a Jeep. Now, I can foresee, it's interesting that you have 2 Teslas. I can foresee a time based on my current level of understanding, which is changing thanks to you and some of the information you're giving me today. But I can see a time where it makes sense to have one EV. That way you can get the benefit of all the things it can do, the full self-driving, especially with the non-supervised version that's coming out. That's wonderful, and especially wonderful for a aging population that maybe doesn't drive at night. Maybe population that doesn't have a driver's license, that will be able to go and do things on their own. I think it's wonderful. But my problem with the car is it's a car.
Yes.
I don't want to drive in a car. I don't like sitting low, especially in traffic. Now, if the car is driving itself, I'm going to be less concerned about what I can see coming up. So there is that. But I don't particularly care for a car. If it's a car, it needs to be a sports car, probably a Viper. Now we're talking about some fun. So I'm looking forward, and then the Cybertruck doesn't do it for me. I think the Cybertruck is fantastic. I think we're going to see them on Mars, but I that does not do it for me. That's not a truck. You know, the Ford F-150, the Chevrolet trucks, which I don't really care for those so much anymore, but those aren't actually, that's not actually a pickup truck. And I understand they have to, and you can correct me on this, they have to do things to that vehicle to make it at least aerodynamic enough so they can get a decent amount of mileage out of it.
Yes. Well, that's true of all vehicles. It's just more apparent in an electric vehicle.
Right.
So let's talk real quick about the pickup situation, because America makes great pickups. You know, I know people who don't get it. I know people who disagree. I know people who think to be a real truck, it has to do X, Y, or Z. And I think if it's a pickup to you, it's a pickup. And do you know what the most American-made pickup truck is?
I think it's the Ford F-150, isn't it?
Not even close.
You're talking about the Honda Ridgeline, aren't you?
It's not even in the top 10. The Cybertruck is number 1. It is made in Texas. The batteries are made in Texas. The steel comes from Texas.
Musk is just so smart about doing this. Why do you need third party when you just do it your own damn self? And,
yes.
and you keep the cost down that way too. It's beautiful. It's brilliant.
It is crazy because at the time it was designed and planned out, they didn't know there was going to be big tariffs on imported things like steel and auto parts. It was part of the USMCA. It should be duty free coming in, and now it's not. And now the Cybertruck has a huge advantage. The looks are not for everyone, but in terms of off-road capability, it is fantastic. I went out with a trail driving group, and the path we went on was so ragged that the entire time we were on that, the whole day, we never saw another street legal vehicle there. Because even though maybe your car could handle it, maybe your off-road vehicle could handle it, we were getting scraped up big time. And the Cybertruck doesn't scrape. It handles branches like nothing because it's stainless steel. And so the low end torque you get out of an electric motor is smooth. It's consistent. It's very powerful.
And it's right there and it's constant. Doesn't matter with RPM.
Constant.
Yeah.
Yes. So the entire day, the only problem we had was one guy popped a tire because a branch got a little aggressive on his sidewall. And fortunately, he was the guy who picked the path. So nobody has to apologize to him.
Right.
So that's on pickups. Now, let's go back and talk about the Viper. I had a 99 Viper, showroom new, for 4 months. Give you one guess how come I don't have it anymore.
You wrapped it around a tree.
A telephone pole. You're so close.
It's tree related.
It's the way that they all go, unfortunately. No traction control, no smart anything, just 13-inch wide tires.
Oh, we die like men. You don't have all that bullshit on there.
So, my 99 Viper could do 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. Wasn't practical. I once had to go buy some bedding. I went to buy a blanket and there is no place for it. Jam it on the passenger. This is going to be uncomfortable, but we got to do it. Now let's talk about the Model Y. It is all-wheel drive. It has traction control, the likes of which no gas car can rival, because instead of trying to apply brakes to give you traction, it just reduces power to give you traction because it's an electric motor, and you can do that. The Model Y, the version I have has the third row in it. It's a very small third row, but it works for kids. It is a grocery getter. It does sit higher up so you can see over the other cars. And it was $52,000, I think, is what I paid before the federal rebate. So $45,000-ish at the time, 2 years ago. If you buy the acceleration boost on it, which is another $2,000, your 0 to 60 time is 4.3 seconds. It is a fast car. Last year, I had a chance to take a buddy's Model 3 out for autocross, the performance one. I've never done autocross. I am a terrible autocross driver. Out of 63 drivers, I came in 47th, ahead of people who knew what they were doing because the car is so fast. A little heavy in the corners, because, I'm up against Miatas and Z3s, but it was fast.
You got that center of
light.
gravity lower too because of the batteries, which is nice.
Yes. The center of gravity, there was footage you can find on YouTube of them doing the rollover test for the Model X, and they just keep speeding it up and speeding it up and speeding it up until they finally get it over to its roof and it rolls back to its wheels because it's the center of gravity.
Right.
And when NHTSA was testing, NHTSA, I think, or the Insurance Highway Safety Institute, when they were testing the rollover for one of the vehicles, they broke the machine, because the rule is you just keep cranking it up until you can flip it, and the darn thing wouldn't flip. Mm-hmm. They broke the machine. So now they've had to change how they do rollover testing. They start it at an angle on a sled and slam it. So that
cheaters,
because you have to test to failure, preferably not the failure of the testing equipment.
No, I don't think you have to. I mean, that's fine if it's in their charter, but I mean, they don't have to test to failure. They can say, we just couldn't make it roll over. To me, that's accurate and better for the sales brochure.
Sure. I don't mind the testing standards getting stricter and stricter. What's really fun to see in that regard is when they add a new test to see how your car performs on the good example is the small overlap rigid barrier, the SORB test, which is basically testing when a car drifts into your lane and you go driver fender to driver fender, mm-hmm. How does it fare? They didn't used to test that. They used to just do full front collision, and that is not a way a lot of people crash. My 2016 Nissan Quest was not designed for a small overlap collision. And if you look at the crash testing, it looks terrifying. My legs would have been shattered because the Nissan Quest was built on a Maxima platform. And it was just too much car for that frame. So where you look at like Mercedes or Volvo, historically, when the tests change, they still perform well because they're not trying to study for the test. They're trying to have a safe car.
Right. So I'm making this assumption, but I should ask, have you ever owned a Jeep?
I have not owned a Jeep. No.
Okay. So one of the things, and I'm going to go back to the Cybertruck off-road, and Jeep itself has been responsible for a lot of this. They will build things that have the Jeep logo on it that mm-hmm. are not what we would consider Jeeps.
I hear you say, I'm sorry, did you say Compass? I've driven a Compass. I had a job reviewing cars for a few months 15 years ago, and I did drive a Compass, and I will agree with you, there was no Jeep DNA in that vehicle.
Mm-mm. No, I hear that people that have them really like them as a commuter vehicle, but it says Jeep on it. And as a big time Jeeper, I take insult to that. My first Jeep was a 1998 Jeep Cherokee XJ. And mm-hmm. that we were all really excited whenever they were bringing the Cherokee back. And they came out with this Reebok looking tennis shoe that looked mm-hmm. like everybody else's SUV crossover, it wasn't Jeep. And it was IFS. And I don't know if you know this or not, but as a Jeeper, it needs to be a solid front axle. Not IFS. IFS is not as strong. It can be, but it's very expensive to make it as strong as a solid front axle. So to us, those things, to me, they call them gynos, Jeep and name only.
mm-hmm.
So whenever you went off-road with the Cybertruck, the level at what we're talking about as far as going off-road, hang on one second. I don't see how they see these people. We don't have any windows open. They see somebody walking by, start barking.
Oh, I can't hear it for what it's worth.
Yeah, it comes in, and I know that I can hear it coming in through my headphones. All right, they're done. Okay, so anyway, hang on, let me. That's not a good way to start. So Jeep has kind of done this. They started with the Liberty. Liberty replaced the Cherokee back in 2001. They came out with the Liberty, and they put a trail rated badge on that. And they took it out to the trail, and they drove it around off-road, quote unquote off-road.
A walking trail.
Yeah. So
not a hiking trail.
My question to you was, what kind of trail was that the Cybertrucks are on? Because unless you can lift the Cybertruck up higher and put more aggressive tires and have good clearance both front and rear to get up over things and down off of things, it really isn't an off-road vehicle. Now, can it go off-road? Absolutely. But what we would consider Jeepers with modified Jeeps would consider, or even just a stock Wrangler or Gladiator, I think it's a lot more capable than the Cybertruck. At Trails Off-Road, we didn't just create an app. You're exploring our passion. Every trail guide and every feature is built in-house by the same enthusiasts who love to off-road as much as you do. No one has trail information like Trails Off-Road because no one else verifies every single trail with tires on the dirt. Find your perfect off-road adventure with the detailed trail guides filled with vehicle recommendations, obstacle photos, video, advanced difficulty ratings, camping locations, and so much more. Just go to trailsoffroad.com right now, and when you subscribe, use JTS15 for a 15% discount. Help support the companies that help support the show you love, the Jeep Talk Show. This episode of Jeep Talk Show is brought to you by G-Tops. Now you can get 25% off. In the beginning, the idea of G-Tops was simply to let the light into your Jeep. Many Jeepers take their tops off. Freedom Tops make this easy and easy to store. What if you could let the light in every time you drive your Jeep? Rain, snow, sunny, it doesn't matter. That's G-Tops, letting you enjoy the outside simply and easily. Use the code 25OFF at checkout. G-Tops that were over $1,200 are now less than $1,000. Your price may vary. Contact xjtalk.com at 414-350-6006 right now.
Sure. So that's a neat thing about the Cybertruck. One thing I dislike about big trucks is I'm a short guy. I've got stubby little legs, and getting into a truck can be a challenge. It's got air suspension from the factory. So when you park, you just set it to, and you can configure it to automatically do whatever at your driveway. It can automatically go up or down if you like. In entry mode, it's like 8.5 inches of ground clearance. In extract mode, and extract mode is the highest setting, you can only go up to, I don't remember, 15 or 20 miles an hour because it's all the way up. You've got 16 inches of ground clearance. So on this particular trail, it was nothing but ruts. We saw some dirt bikes on it, and we saw, I don't know what you'd call them, but they were 4-wheel enclosed, but with like spider-like suspension. The wheels were
probably a
lot of
buggy.
clearance.
It was probably a buggy, completely handmade.
So on that trail with 16 inches of clearance, we were still sliding on the skid plate because it has a skid plate. It has to have a skid plate. So these were very aggressive trails.
Now, what do you do if you're going to ford through water? That's a potential issue for the batteries, isn't it?
A very good question. There is a mode called wade. If you're going to be coming up, it says don't go over the fenders. Just keep it under the wheel well. Sorry. Don't keep it, but 16 inches
that's
plus that's quite good. And when you activate wade mode, it pumps some air into the battery to give it positive pressure so that the extra water pressure doesn't allow any ingress.
That is really, really nice.
Yes. And 20 minutes later, if you don't shut it off 20 minutes later, it'll say, it appears you're done. We're going to depressurize the battery. And it does so.
Can you get an option for farting mode? So whenever it's releasing the air, you can have it just go.
Not automatically,
really,
but all Teslas do have fart mode, where you can select which seat is going to make the fart noise.
Oh, nice!
Yeah,
sign me
and
up.
You can also set it to activate with like the blinker. So before you let your buddy borrow the car, you turn that on, and then he's like, "What in the heck is going on? I do not understand."
Yeah. The other problem I have with, and the funny thing is, Elon hears this, he'll put it on there like he did the nose cone. Make the nose cone more rounded or more pointy, whichever it was.
Pointy. No, make it pointier. Yes,
make it pointier. So the other thing is that, I mean, I love the vehicles. I think they're great. I don't see myself in one. I see myself in a car, but not being my primary vehicle. My daughters recently bought their own vehicles, and I said, you should have got a Tesla. Because they live very close to where they work, and I think it would be cheaper, and also too they get all these benefits. My youngest daughter works for the same company as my oldest daughter, and she actually has to drive to Dallas once a month. But my concern was about, charging going up to Dallas, from Houston to Dallas. But from what you're saying, it wouldn't be a problem. And the great thing is that 4-hour drive that she has, if she dumped the $8,000 for the full self-driving, now she doesn't have to be alert and making the decisions all the time. And my wife is terrified of a self-driving vehicle. And I said, honey, I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but I can imagine that when horses were pulling the buggies, and if you had had a little too much to drink, and all you had to do is get on the horse or get in the buggy, the horse would take you home. You trusted the horse. So this is, I think, very similar, is it just takes a little experience and you getting home safely. Now you're going to start trusting the vehicle. I think full self-driving is amazing. I've made this comment before. Why did it take 25 years for us to get into the 21st century?
It's because the problem is so huge that it's very difficult to solve. On the self-driving front, there's a couple things I would point out. $8,000 is too many dollars for me. So what I've done is subscribe instead, $99 a month.
Right.
If you choose not to subscribe, you still get Autopilot. Autopilot is a better assist feature than you can get in almost any other car, regardless of how much extra the other guys charge. With Autopilot, when you get on the highway, you turn it on and it will go forever. It won't change lanes, but it's adaptive cruise control. It can handle a bend of any degree. You can adjust the speed. Autopilot is a better assisted automatic driver assist system than anybody else I've seen, and the other guys usually charge for it. Now, with full self-driving, I know a lot of people who've had experiences with it and say, I'll never use it again, it's too dangerous. And I ask, when did you try it?
Right. I've heard you guys talk about this.
Because the new versions are always coming out. And on version 11, it worked great in California, where I live in rural Washington state. It was homicidal, I think is the only way to put it. It was terrifying, and I would not use it, and I unsubscribed. When version 12 came out, it was a mile better. It was so much better, but I still wouldn't use it all the time, because if I'm tired, I'm not going to deal with being your boss. This is too much work.
Right.
Now we're on version 13, and I use it everywhere all the time without fail, because it's just that good. When you do a long road trip like I just did, if you are driving for 10 hours straight, you are micromanaging every decision that car makes for the whole time. Maybe you've got cruise control set, but if you don't, it's even worse. And I've done 10, 12-hour drives in a conventional automobile, the Nissan Quest and others before it. And by the end of 10 to 12 hours, you need a whole day to mentally recover. You are shattered. In this, you can go 10, 12 hours. You will arrive sleepy but you will not be emotionally fried.
Right.
And it's wonderful. No matter what vehicle you look at next, look for something that can have at least adaptive cruise control, so that on the highway, you don't have to stress out the entire time.
Right. This is, and I'm jumping around based on what we're talking about here.
Sure.
So this brings up another thing. I recently wrote an article, really to scare the hell out of people. There is a yearly event that Jeepers do, and it's kind of like the Mecca for Jeep. It's called Easter Jeep Safari. And many Jeepers go to Moab, Utah, and go off-road. It's like being on another planet. From here near Houston, it is a 20-hour drive to Moab, Utah. So the thing I did to terrorize people was, what would you do if you had a fully self-driving vehicle that could tow your Jeep out to Moab, and then all you had to do, you sent it on its way, and all you had to do was fly in, get in your Jeep, go off-road, and then put it back on the Cybertruck and let it drive the vehicle back home. Now, there's things that have to happen. For example, what was that German company that Tesla bought that I think they're basically going to do the self-charging where you drive over the the charger, and it charges with like you can do telephones.
Inductive charging.
Inductive,
I don't remember
thank you.
the name of the company, but yes.
You know what I'm talking about. So when I saw them buy that, I went, oh, there they go. They're going to have it where they can park over the charger, and now they don't have to plug into something. Of course, a humanoid robot could plug it in, but let's just go simple first.
Right.
So that would have to be there, or the robots would have to be there, or a robot would have to go in the vehicle to charge it, obviously, on the 20-hour trip. But I could see that happening. Now, I'd be a nervous wreck. I'd want to be keeping track of where it was and how my Jeep is doing, and not to mention the $70,000 to $100,000 Cybertruck. But just the idea that this technology is getting us to a situation where it's like you are a multi-millionaire business owner, and you need to go someplace to be seen and also to have fun. But it's part of your business to be out there with Jeeps and be off-road and be seen and meet people. But why do you have to drive the 20 hours?
Right.
Well, we're seeing very rapidly a situation where we're going to have a lifestyle of multi-millionaires.
So have you ever come back to a parking lot to find that your battery was dead?
Sure.
Of course. Who over the age of probably 30 hasn't? If you've owned a car long enough, that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
When I went on a trip recently, I parked my car at the economy lot. I didn't have much charge. I thought, well, it's not going to drain that much while I'm gone. But while I was gone, I realized it is going to drain that much while I'm gone, because I kept the security system running. It was the cameras, the Sentry mode.
Right.
It's 7 dash cams in one. And I could see from the app, from the other side of the world, that the battery wasn't going to make it. What do? Well, in this case, I said, well, it's at the Portland airport. I'm just going to email a key to my buddy Ron, who lives in Portland, and ask him if he can pop in there and move it over to the charger. And he said, yeah, sure. I can't do it today. I can do it tomorrow or the next day. I said, that's perfect. And so I didn't even tell him where the car was, because once he accepted the key in his app, he can now see it on the map. And if I give the kids my car and they want to drive it, I can see where they are and how fast they're going.
Mm-hmm.
I can see everything. If I want to turn on the cameras and see them, I can see them. So when you're on the flight coming into Utah, and you're going to be doing where is it anyway? You can pull out your phone on the flight, see exactly where it is, see its state of charge, see how the speed it's going, and oh yeah, it's going to make it in time. Now, of course, because unsupervised self-driving doesn't exist quite yet today, it's expected any day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a reality yet. But all those other things, what would I have done if I came back to find my car needed juice and didn't have it? It's a problem that can be solved with the technology we already have.
Mm-hmm. If you didn't have a friend or somebody that you trusted, I flip back to Ferris Bueller's Day Off and those guys driving the car, putting 300 miles on it. If you didn't have somebody that you could trust, is there like a AAA or something where they can go and charge your vehicle?
Yes. AAA, in many markets already has that service available.
Nice.
And I would say in the coastal states, that's something you could probably get everywhere at this point. And because all they need is to get you just enough juice to get you to the next charger, just like they bring a little can of gas. Mm-hmm. So that's something that can already be done.
Excellent. All right. So, for example, the next stage.
And real quick, what I would have done is I wouldn't have called AAA. I'd have called somebody who has a Cybertruck or an F-150 Lightning and asked them to bring it out, because you can charge at level 2 off of either of those trucks.
Nice. I did not know that. I told somebody recently on the show, if you see a Ford F-150 on the side of the road and they got jumper cables, don't stop, because it may be a Lightning. And then you'll be there for a while. But anyway, I
did want to talk real quick on this before you
go right ahead.
If anyone hasn't driven a Ford F-150 Lightning, go ask for a test drive. It may be the best driving truck you've ever felt. It doesn't drive like a truck. It drives like a big car, like a big, well-made car. The suspension, it's a heavy truck, but the suspension is wonderful. You get to the on-ramp, punch it. the acceleration is breathtaking, and it just handles so good. And the same is true of the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck also drives not like a truck, but like a medium-sized car. Not as big of a car as the F-150 feels like, but both of those. And I've driven the Silverado, but I haven't had a chance to really drive it. It was at a auto show, so I just got to do the loop around the block. But these do not feel like big dumb trucks. They feel like new, smart, amazing trucks. They feel like Land Rovers instead of big trucks.
Yeah, a 70s or 80s truck.
Even my brother's 2003 F-150, when it's not loaded, it's bouncy.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the things we say about Jeeps, where people will complain about the ride of the Wranglers and the Gladiators are rough. And I say, go buy a Cadillac if you want a good ride. To be a cool kid, you have to have the rough ride. And often when you raise the suspension and do other things to it, the ride's going to get rougher, but that's a price that you pay to be able to take it off-road. Right.
Now take your Cadillac off-road, and I'll see you in 3 minutes when your car is destroyed.
Exactly. So, so that's just, this is one argument there for that. So, very interesting things that you're saying. And unfortunately I'm paying attention, so I'm forgetting the direction I'm going to go here, but you keep doing it, because I'd rather be, if I'm entertained, everybody else is as well, and informed. So, let's see, what was I going to say? So we've talked about, I remember. So being cheap, I wouldn't take a flight to meet my truck and Jeep. I would ride in the vehicle. Because if you're confident about your vehicle driving itself, you got a hotel on wheels.
Yes.
And now you're getting there in that 20 hours. You're not driving halfway there, going to a hotel or something, and then going to the trouble of maybe somebody breaking in or stealing something. You're just in the vehicle, and you take the breaks every so often. You get you something to eat, and you sleep in the vehicle. And not only are you're not necessarily being a multimillionaire with staff, but now you're saving money and still doing the things and making great time. Because you know how important it is, especially when you have a family. You don't want to stop because you're making great time.
John Madden famously hated flying. So how did he cover all well, he had a bus, he had a tour bus and a driver. And when the game was over, he'd hop in the tour bus and, work until he was tired, sleep until he was done sleeping. And it's somebody else's problem. That's
the level of things that we're going to be able to do. And I've made the comment on several YouTube videos about if full self-driving makes driving so much safer, why isn't it being offered to ICE manufacturers? Because as long as you have the controls that a computer can manipulate, you should be able to use the same technology that is being used by Teslas. And I thought that was true up until just the other day. I had Grok look it up, and Elon has offered this to other manufacturers, but nobody has said yes.
Yes, and that's right. Tesla will work with other companies. They have worked with other companies. In China, collaborations like that are a lot more common. In China, there are cars that have all kinds of almost full self-driving systems. They're not quite as good. Huawei's got a good system. BYD's got a pretty good system. And they'll put those on their hybrids as well as their electric cars. In the US, what Elon has said is if enough, we're not going to put it on your car if you only plan to make 50,000 of them. It's not worth the engineering hassle. Mm-hmm. If you want to put it on mass market vehicles, we will work with you and you can do it. But all of those manufacturers have said, no, why don't we see more collaboration between the big players? And according to teardown titan Sandy Monroe from Monroe and Associates, who reverse engineers vehicles, he said the big three suffer a real problem with NIH syndrome, not invented here. If it wasn't invented here, it's not good enough. We're not going to use it. And they will spend billions trying to reinvent the wheel rather than just buy one.
This is going to hurt them and other manufacturers, because I personally think Tesla is way ahead in the full self-driving category. And I don't think anybody's going to catch them for at least a couple of years or longer.
Certainly not in the US. In the US, we have a real exclusion from Chinese brands. There are a lot of Chinese brands that are that are moving in the right direction. The big trick is you need tons and tons of training data. And the only way to do that is to put thousands of dollars worth of sensors and cameras and computers on a car and let it drive.
Right.
Give it to a customer. In China, they've started doing that. Many companies are gathering data for both BYD and Huawei, and they are making great strides because of it. Tesla started putting all their cameras on every car years ago.
Yes,
so they've got
it's just
millions
amazing.
of vehicles.
The dominoes. I mean, SpaceX. Then let's put up a Starlink satellite system so we can have communications. And oh my God, why don't we use that with the Tesla? I mean, it's not like oh wow, it's like it's all part of the plan. I mean, all Elon needs is a cat and a layer, and he could be an evil genius for Bond. I mean, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. And I was very young at the time, but I got to see the Apollo missions. And I also got the promises of where we would be by the 1980s and 1990s. Bullshit. I have not seen anything with the space program that is on the level of what we were doing during the Apollo missions until Elon Musk and SpaceX.
The shuttle, I guess, was different. It wasn't better, but it was very different. And that was the last innovation in the space race we saw until SpaceX came along. Yep. And to the people who say, well, once Tesla has unsupervised FSD, within months, everyone will have it. That's how other technologies have worked. Once voice to text was mastered at one company, within months, everyone had it. I point to SpaceX has been landing rockets and reusing them for years. And this problem, the solution to it is worth billions of dollars, and yet no one else has successfully done it unless you count that tiny suborbital rocket from Blue Origin that just kind of goes straight up and straight back down. Not very exciting. Right. I will spare the audience the
got Captain Kirk into space, though.
That was cool. But then when he's trying to talk to the camera, Jeff Bezos is interrupting. It's like, we're not here for you, Jeff.
No.
But seeing, when I'm having a bad day, I put on a video on YouTube of the Falcon Heavy test launch where they landed two rockets side by side simultaneously, and it cheers me up. It gives me hope for what humanity can accomplish.
How are you whenever they caught the first booster on the first attempt?
It's coming in. Boy, it looks like it's coming in.
It's real coming in an angle. Yeah.
It's coming in. That is too fast, isn't it? Oh, wait. Okay. And I said,
and it just goes, the arms just go, yeah, I got you.
And I think my words were no effing way.
Oh, or no, I literally cried.
No, I said, you've got to be effing kidding me.
Yes. I literally cried watching it. It was that promise of the Apollo missions coming forward and Elon doing, I mean, can you imagine making the decision? I mean, that jeopardized the tower.
Oh yeah, the entire site.
Yes.
Yeah. It's they know what they're good at. The second part of it, the actual Starship part of it, is a lot more new territory, and they are struggling with it. But they're doing it.
Somebody was commenting on that the other day, and I said it is rapid prototyping. There are going to be explosions. Elon said this to begin with. This isn't the Apollo mission where you spend 9 years building it and testing it and flying it. It's like you build something, you fly it. I mean, it's a freaking water tower that they're flying.
Well, it's much bigger than a water tower. The full stack is 60 stories tall.
Yeah.
It is a skyscraper. Now, I would like to mention to the audience, I am not actually a Tesla fanboy. I am not an Elon Musk fanboy. I am a fanboy of technology and science. That just happens to have a significant overlap with the work done by the 130,000 employees and engineers at Tesla and the additional ones at SpaceX. I've met a lot of them. They're brilliant people who are very hardworking. When it comes to doing the impossible, SpaceX does it. I've seen people say SpaceX should lose all their government contracts because they're getting too much free money from the government, and that is the wrong approach. Every time SpaceX launches for the government, The government is saving between 30 and 70% on the cost of the payload to orbit. If you stop using SpaceX because you're mad at one guy, the government will spend more money. And not just that, not only will they spend more money, they will have to limit what they can launch because no one else in the world can provide it. Last year, SpaceX delivered 97% of the payload to orbit for the entire world. That's how cost effective and efficient they are. And to the people saying, well, they keep blowing up, I don't trust them. No, they don't. It is the Starship tests that blow up. None of those were planned for recovery. At best, they were going to crash into the ocean in one piece instead of many. Right. So you got to understand the case there. The Falcon 9 Block 5 is the most reliable rocket flown in world history.
Yes.
Block 5 has a 100% success rate. And if you count the previous Falcon 9s, you're at like 99.7% success. Nothing comes close.
And this is, and I'll predict, this is what we're going to see with the Starship once they get it down. It is going to be something that is just outstanding and amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And speaking of this, speaking about things blowing up, and I have this issue with my wife from time to time because she'll be on the social media and she'll be watching things and she'll go, yeah, I saw where a Tesla ran into a person. I saw where this crashed into that and other. And I said, was it a Tesla? Because it, you know, and she goes, well, I don't know. It was an electric vehicle. And I think that a lot of that need, and I just mentioned this to folks, you need to pay attention because I'm fine with Tesla making a mistake and being held accountable. But the way they do things, that doesn't happen very often. I think the last time it was somebody on a bicycle that got hit. It couldn't see it. The Tesla couldn't see it for some reason. A couple of years ago.
That particular one, to me, as juicy as anecdotes are fun. It's easy headlines.
Conspiracy theories.
You can probably get a bunch of clicks from it. But to me, what matters is the data. If you look at the total incidence of crashes in cars and set that as your baseline, you'll find that a Tesla, with or without autopilot, with or without full self-driving, is less likely to crash. And that's because it has good brakes, good tires, good suspension, forward collision warning, all those modern amenities. But if you activate autopilot, your risk of crash reduces still. And if you have full self-driving activated, it is yet less likely to crash. So those are the statistics I care about. Is what is it? Is it actually safe? And there are people who will point out correctly that the incidence of death per 100,000 or billion or whatever miles is higher in a Tesla. They are mistaking correlation for causation. Those accidents happen to people who are racing, to people who are going typically in excess of 100 miles an hour. My advice is don't go in excess of 100 miles an hour. And if you're going to, at least do it in the safest car on the market. Tesla consistently scores not just 5 stars, but 5 stars across more categories than anyone else, if not all categories. It is a very safe car as long as you don't drive it like an absolute lunatic.
So I know Tesla doesn't advertise, but I have a great idea for an advertisement.
I'm ready.
Actually two. I think one where they get Arnold Schwarzenegger in the back of a full self-driving robotaxi, and they've got the Johnny Cab guy with the articulating face from Total Recall. That would be wonderful. I actually sent Elon a picture about that. I think that's when he banned me. But anyway, the other one was where you get Will Smith and that chick, I forget, Bridget Monahan, I think is her name, and Will Smith turns off full self-driving, and she goes, "Are you crazy? You're going to drive this yourself?" Remember that from iRobot?
Yeah,
where he's driving 300 miles an hour. They need to recreate that. All right, Brian, I warned you.
Those people are too expensive.
Yes. All right, Brian. Oh, AI, you could do it real cheap. Probably get sued, but still. All right, Brian. Well, I warned you that if the conversation was good, we might run as long as an hour, and that's where we are right now. So sadly, for me, and I'm sure our audience, I have to pull this to a stop. By the way, you know how the kids love the social media, and we've mentioned going to YouTube and looking for Future AZA, and that's Future with the letters AZA. Alpha, Zebra Alpha is all you need to put in there to search. I highly recommend it. I watch some. I watched one today. It's always good information. I watch it all the way to the end, Brian. I don't get out early, so the information is good all the way to the end. So really appreciate you being here. Where else can the kids find you? You got any pictures up anyplace else besides YouTube?
So YouTube is where I do the vast majority of my work. I'm also on x.com at the same handle, and that's future with the E in it. So not like Futurama where they drop the E. No, I have the E. And you wanted to know why Future AZA? That was in the intro. I will tell you, it's because I needed to rebrand. The channel had been called My Tesla Weekend, but I cover so much more than Tesla, and I cover more than just the weekends. In the beginning, I was just on the weekends, and that's just a filler word. So I needed something new. So I picked a name that wasn't a thing anywhere else so I could get it across the platforms, and I have it.
I was buying domains on the internet back when you could get 3- and 4-letter domains, and I didn't buy a bunch of them up. Didn't know, had no idea. So you can't do that anymore. And that's kind of funny too, because you have to pick something that nobody else is using if you want to be able to use it on all the platforms.
Yes.
All right, Brian. Yes. Well, I certainly hope you didn't mind all this skullduggery and dumbass questions here. Hopefully it was something that wasn't so bad that you won't come back, because I can tell we need to talk about a lot more things. I didn't get anywhere close to the number of questions that I have. But thank you very much. I had
a great time. It was, and as far as silly questions go, it's a new question to someone. And I do a lot of information expos, and I participate in a lot of events, and I always take questions. So I'm glad we got through as many as we did. So
that reminds me, do you have anything you're going to be at here in the upcoming future that you'd like to plug?
Sure do. September 13th, I'll be at the Electric Week Ride and Drive event in Portland, Oregon at the Daimler Truck HQ. We're going to be out there all day. You can find it at oeva.org for the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. And I think that's the only event I have coming up imminently, though I will be in Texas in November for the Tesla shareholder meeting. So who knows? Maybe I can connect with you then.
Sure. Have you ever met Elon? Are you planning on meeting Elon?
I have not met Elon. I have been in the same room as Elon once, but no, I have not met him. I've met most of the other executives. I've met Franz von Holzhausen, the designer of all the vehicles, twice. And I've met a number of the other executives, but not Elon himself.
So in case you do, I have a favor to ask for you. You can always decline. The Jeep Talk Show, we've been doing this thing for 15 years. We could use some advertising. And I thought, how good advertising would it be to actually have a Jeep Talk Show logo on the side of a Starship? And I'm not talking about a 4-inch one. I'm talking about 50 foot, about 50 foot. And unfortunately, I really can't afford a sticker like that. So I'd need to get Elon to pay for the sticker as well.
Hey, we're thinking outside of the box.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's true.
It could be on the side that burns up. I don't care. I just need to draw on there during launch.
Sure. Love it.
All right, Brian, thanks very much.
Broadcasting since 2010.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.